I will tell you something about promissory notes before I tell you about Kala. A bond offer is not a contract of sale. It does not bind the daughter, it binds the honor of the house that signed it. If the house is gone, the father dead, the hearth cold, no brother to carry the name forward, the note becomes a piece of paper with a wax seal and nothing behind it. I had 3 such notes in the garrison record's chest. The pack law was clear on all of them. They were, to use the precise legal term, unenforceable. I had read that chest's contents exactly once, the winter I took the Alpha seat at Aldenmere, 31 years ago. I had not opened it since. So when the last wagon of the season came through the eastern gate at dusk on the 14th of late autumn, and a woman climbed down from the bench with a mender's satchel over one shoulder and a sealed document in her hand, I was not thinking about the chest. I was thinking about the passes. They close within the week when the temperature drops the way it had dropped that afternoon, a hard, sudden cold that came off the Kelvrath peaks like a door swinging shut. We had the garrison provisioned. We were ready. What I was not ready for was a woman standing in my outer yard in the failing light, holding out a document with my seal on it, and saying, in a voice that carried no particular deference, "I believe this belongs to you. My father died in the spring." I found this in his chest. I don't know what it is, but it has your mark on it, and I've been carrying it since the summer solstice. I looked at the seal. It was mine. The wax was old, 15 years, perhaps more. "Come inside," I said. She followed me without comment, which I noted. Most people who come to a garrison keep for the first time look at the walls, the wolves at the gate, the height of the watchtower. She looked at the flagstones. I realized later that she was checking the footing, a mender's habit, checking the ground for what might need fixing. I took her to the garrison table, the long oak one in the east hall where I do the administrative work. Pellin brought 2 cups of tea without being asked, set them down, and left. The woman, she had not given her name yet, sat across from me, folded her hands on the table, and waited while I broke the seal. The bond offer was in my own hand. I had written it 14 years ago, in the 2nd year of the border compact with the river clans. Her father, a man named Aldous, had held a provisioning contract with the garrison, salt, dried fish, lamp oil. He had approached me about an extension. I had needed a gesture of good faith from the River Valley houses to hold the compact together. He had offered what River Valley men offered in those years: a daughter, when she was of age, to be received as a bond bride if both parties found it agreeable. I had signed because it cost me nothing, and it held the compact for another 6 years, and I had forgotten about it the same month. I read it twice. The bond mark on my wrist had been the same color since the day I was born into the Alpha line, a silver thread, faint, the width of a grass stalk. 31 years on the Alpha seat, and it had never changed. It changed now, not dramatically, not the blaze I had heard other Alpha kings describe, a light you could read by, warmth like an open fire, just a shift. The way a coal changes when the air touches it, when it has been banked so long you forgot it was still burning. "Your name," I said. "Kala," she said. "Aldous was my father." "I see." I set the note on the table between us, facing her. "You should read this." She picked it up. She read it the way she had looked at the flagstones, methodically, without expression. When she finished, she set it back down and looked at me with the same directness she'd had in the outer yard. "He pledged me," she said. "It was not a question." "Yes." "Without telling me." "That appears to be the case." She was quiet for a moment. Not frightened, not tearful. She turned the note slightly on the table so it sat at a precise right angle to the edge, which told me something about how she organized her thoughts. Then she said, "I'd like to see the original garrison instrument, the compact text the offer was attached to. I want to understand what he actually signed and what the legal force of it is." I looked at her. "I'm a mender," she said. "I fix things. Before I can fix a thing, I have to understand what it actually is, not just what someone says it is." I sent for Pellin. It took him a quarter-hour to find the compact in the records room. In that quarter-hour, Calla drank her tea, asked me 3 questions about the garrison's provisioning arrangements. Apparently she was also assessing whether the original contract her father had held could be revived under new terms, as a separate matter from the bond offer, and told me, without any ceremony, that the flagstone in the outer yard's northeast corner had heaved and would crack before spring if we didn't reset it. The warmth behind my ribs was not dramatic. It did not announce itself. It simply continued to be there, steadier than it had been a moment before, the way a sound you've been hearing for a long time becomes audible only when you finally pay attention to it. Pellin brought the compact. She read the full instrument, which was 11 pages. I watched her. She had a way of turning pages that suggested she retained what she had read on each one before moving to the next. When she finished, she stacked the pages precisely and said, "The bond offer is a personal gesture from my father. It is not incorporated into the compact text. The compact's renewal provisions make no reference to it. Under River Valley succession law, a personal gesture made by a householder does not pass to heirs who were not party to it." "That is correct," I said. "So it is unenforceable." "Also correct." She nodded once, the way a person nods when a calculation comes out the way they expected. "Then I have settled what I came to settle. I've delivered the document. I've confirmed its status. I'll be on my way in the morning before the pass is close." She stood up. My wolf, and I want to be clear that my wolf had not, in 31 years, done anything that could be called unexpected, moved. Not physically. I did not shift, did not alter. But the wolf inside a man is not only his body. It is also the part of him that knows things before the thinking part catches up, and what mine knew in that moment was that this woman was about to walk out of the East Hall and down the flagstone yard and through the gate, and it had a very clear opinion about that. The bond mark on my wrist went from banked coal to full fire. Not a metaphor. I mean the skin of my wrist, where the silver thread had sat unchanged for 3 decades, bloomed gold, bright, warm, unmistakable, and I heard her make a short, sharp sound and looked up to find her staring at her own wrist, where the same thing had happened. She sat back down, not because I asked her to, because she was, as I have said, a practical woman, and a practical woman does not walk out of a room when something that's significant has just occurred. We looked at each other across the garrison table. "That," she said carefully, "was not in the compact." "No," I said. "Is that what I think it is?" "What do you think it is?" She looked at her wrist again. The gold was settled now, not blazing but steady and warm, the color of good beeswax in firelight. "I think," she said, "it is the bond mark, the fated mate mark. I have read about it. My father's people used to say the old king still carried it, but I assumed that was the kind of thing people say." "It is not the kind of thing people only say." She was quiet. Then, "How long has yours been silver?" 31 years. She looked at that for a moment. What 31 years meant, the weight of it, the keeping of the border with a silver thread on one's wrist and no one at the other end of it. Something moved in her face that was not pity. It was closer to the expression she had worn reading the compact, the recognition that a thing had been a certain way for a long time and could now be otherwise. "Does it hurt?" she asked. "The 31 years?" "No," I said. "It was simply the condition of the place." She nodded slowly. Outside, the wind had picked up off the Kelvrath peaks. The passes would close within the week. The last wagon of the season had already come through, which meant she could not leave for some months even if she chose to. I did not say this. It felt like the wrong kind of argument. What I said was, "I am not the bond offer. I am not your father's note. You did not sign anything, and I would not hold you to something you did not choose." I paused. "But I would ask you if you are willing to stay through the winter, not as an obligation, as a guest." She looked at her wrist again, then at mine. "If I stay through the winter," she said, I will want to reset that flagstone in the northeast corner before the first hard freeze. The garrison smith can assist you. I don't need assistance. I need a pry bar in an hour. I almost smiled. I am not by nature a man who smiles easily. The wolf noticed. Calla, I said. It was the first time I had used her name, and I used it the way you use something you intend to keep using, carefully, deliberately, as a statement of intent. Will you stay? She considered this with the same methodical attention she had given the compact. Then she said, one condition. Name it. The provisioning contract. I want to negotiate a revival of the original terms. My father held it for 12 years. I know his routes and his suppliers. I can do it more efficiently than he did, because I also mend things along the way, and the garrison's eastern outposts have repairs outstanding that your records show haven't been addressed in 6 years. I looked at her. The gold on her wrist caught the firelight from the hall's east sconce. Pellin, I said. He appeared in the doorway. He had been waiting, which told me he had heard enough. Bring the provisioning ledger, I said, and adjust the garrison log. Our guest's name is Calla. Her status is Luna of the Eastern Keep. Pellin looked at her wrist, then at mine. He bowed a full, unhurried bow, the kind reserved for formal recognitions, and went. She watched him go. Then she turned back to me with an expression that was not quite a smile, but occupied the same neighborhood. Luna of the Eastern Keep, she said. That's a great deal of title for a woman who arrived with a mender's satchel and a dead man's letter. It is an accurate title, I said. From the outer yard I heard it then, the garrison wolves, all 9 of them, moving. Not a sound of alarm. The sound they make when they are orienting, turning together towards something, the way compass needles turn. They had done it once before in my memory, a long time ago, when I had first come to the keep and they had accepted me as Alpha. They were doing it now, and they were facing the east hall. She heard it too. She tilted her head toward the yard, listening. They do that, I said, when something has been decided. She was quiet for a moment. Then she reached across the garrison table and set her hand, palm up, on the oak between us, not reaching for mine, not demanding, simply placing it there, available, the way a practical woman makes an offer. Openly, without performance, waiting to see if it is accepted. I covered it with my own. The gold on both our wrists steadied and held. Outside, the last light went from the Kelvrath peaks. The passes would close before the week was out. The wagon that had brought her would not return until spring, and by spring she would have reset the northeast flagstone, renegotiated the provisioning routes, and likely identified 6 additional repairs the garrison had been ignoring since the year before I arrived. I did not consider any of that a problem. She had come to settle a debt. As it turned out, the debt was mine, 31 years of a silver thread and a keep that had been waiting, without knowing it was waiting, for a woman who checked the footing before she entered a room. She stayed.